Vegito fought against Vegito Black, his strongest opponent yet. It seems like Vegito might be the strongest mortal in the multiverse, but is that really true? Thankfully, with the Tournament of Power coming up, he might finally get his answer. We'll be seeing all that and more in this third part of What If Vegito Never Unfused. Vegito becomes the leader for the tournament, and now has to come up with a team for it. He pretty much chooses the same exact team as normal, except this time Yamcha's involved. They're 2 people short this time, not 1. They even do recruit Android 17 to the team, which is pretty confusing to him because he has no clue who Vegito is at first. But now they need one more fighter. Their options are Chaozu, Goten, or Trunks. Or revive someone strong. Vegito has a really good idea. They could revive Frieza, but do they really want to risk that for the extra firepower? Truth is, they don't know what they're up against. Vegito probably is the strongest in the multiverse at this point, but they don't know how strong everyone else is in comparison. Sure, it's likely Vegito's number 1, and there's a good chance he could just handle everything himself. But there's also a chance that other universes are insanely strong. So yeah, they can fill that last slot with whoever they want, but maybe they actually do need the extra firepower, and they would need someone strong like Frieza on the team. So reluctantly, Vegito ends up recruiting Frieza, and if Frieza becomes a problem, he'll fight him later. Frieza only agreed to this if he were revived at the end, and Vegito accepted it, but it's not a big deal to him. Now the Tournament of Power begins, and it turns out they actually didn't really need Frieza. Yeah, everyone there is strong, but compared to Vegito, he could honestly just take on this entire tournament himself. There are a few people that are pretty powerful, but as the tournament goes on, Vegito sees how far above everyone he is. He spends a lot of time warming up, fighting in base just to test out everyone's strength, and he gets to fight a lot of different people from a lot of different universes. But it becomes very clear to him that the strongest person here, other than him, is Jiren. Although he is interested as to what Frieza's capable of because Frieza has grown a lot stronger. Mental training in Hell really did help. He's still no threat to Vegito, but definitely above where he was before. The rest of Team Universe 7 is surprisingly strong too. Gohan and Piccolo, for example. With Piccolo basically being Vegito's de facto rival for a bit, that did boost him up a ton in strength. And Gohan's not absurdly stronger, but because he never truly lost his power, and he did train in the meantime, he's definitely number 2 on the team. Then of course there's Android 17 who's really impressive. So that at least is one good thing for Vegito. He gets to see how strong everyone around him has grown. Plus he encounters Universe 6 again. This time there's 3 Saiyans, not just Kappa. Champa actually did give some earrings to them as a last resort. In case things got really bad, they can fuse. And Vegito spent some time basically just training these Saiyans. Caulifla, Kale, and of course Kappa interest him. And they question him about the fusion because they have their own earrings. First of all, that's against the rules, so they probably shouldn't risk fusion because that might eliminate them. But also he tells them it's not necessary. Sure, it would be powerful. But on one hand, Vegito doesn't think it would be strong enough to fight him. He doesn't say this out loud. He lets them know it's not worth it because it's permanent. They remind him getting erased is permanent too, but Vegito says they're not going to be erased permanently. He already has an idea for what his wish is going to be. Maybe he's being too overconfident, but he already feels like he can win this tournament. And if he does, there's a very simple wish he's going to make. He's going to restore every other universe. That's the only way he'll get to fight other strong people like him. And because of that, he doesn't want these 2 to suffer the same fate that he does. Sure, it's great for Vegito to be this strong, but he's lost his individuality. Goku and Vegeta are no more. And it's been so long by now, Vegito is his own being. He pretty much always has been, but he's dealt with this part for a while too. It's been weighing on his mind. Vegito really shouldn't exist, at least not for this long. He was only here to fight Buu, and now he's grown so strong that he's just bored with everything. Plus it affects the people around him, the people who loved Goku and Vegeta. Vegito is there in their stead, but Goku and Vegeta are no more. They're essentially killing 2 people to make a new fusion. At least that's how he views it now. But they shouldn't have to resort to that. Their universe will come back, and it's nice to hear that. But then they realize Vegito basically said they're going to lose. So the 3 of them test that theory and start fighting Vegito. Somewhere else in the ring, Toppo is fighting against Piccolo and Gohan. The 2 end up defeating him, and he doesn't go into his God of Destruction mode. He's not pushed into that, and he actually does respect Gohan and Piccolo. Mainly Gohan, learning that he's actually a superhero too. But they're powerful warriors and they fight fairly. Dispo does jump in to help too, but Gohan and Piccolo defeat Toppo and Dispo at the same time. It makes Piccolo wonder how far he and Gohan can go. Could they maybe achieve some sort of new form? Gohan's had his ultimate form for a while, and Piccolo doesn't have any new forms. He feels like they've hit a wall and they need to surpass it somehow. And maybe the answer isn't some new flashy transformation, but at the same time maybe it is because they've just been themselves for a while. They need to reinvent themselves somehow. Maybe that's the way to grow stronger going forward. And part of it is the fact that Vegito's gotten a bunch of new powers too. It makes them think the only way to get ahead is to find some new form somehow, if it's even possible. Throughout the entire tournament, Frieza's just Frieza. He screws around, antagonizing people, and he's just generally no fun to be around. But he bides his time and stays in the ring. Eventually the big battle begins. Vegito versus Jiren. Vegito cycles through his forms. First Super Saiyan, then Super Saiyan 2, and then Super Saiyan 3. And weirdly enough, Super Saiyan 3 is actually enough to push Jiren. Wow, you would have thought Jiren would have been stronger than that. Jiren still is pretty powerful, but Vegito's a little bit disappointed. He's definitely a strong warrior and definitely can go a lot further. Plus, there's the fact that Vegito's a fusion, so it's kind of unfair. He truly does admire Jiren's strength, but he has to hold back to enjoy this battle. He wanted to have a little bit more fun. Jiren goes into full power, and Vegito goes into Super Saiyan God, and it's way too much for him. It's overkill. Then eventually going into Super Saiyan Blue to finally finish off the fight and defeat Jiren for good. And he's still holding back. He could have tried Blue Evolution, Blue Kaioken, or maybe even Blue Evolution Kaioken, which is a mouthful, but probably is possible and really powerful in his eyes. He's never really tested that out before because he's focused on something else, because there is another thing he's been holding back as well. So it's kind of a shame he never got to use any of those forms at their full power. Like, even Super Saiyan God was too much. He expected more from the tournament. It was a good experience and he got to meet a bunch of strong people from another universe, but he did kind of hope to find a challenge here. The tournament eventually ends and Universe 7 is the victor, with Vegito decided as the MVP. And of course, Frieza is revived by Whis. Vegito now has the Super Dragon Balls in front of him. Before, he was thinking about using these to separate himself because now is his chance. He could finally get what he wants. But before the tournament even began, he changed his wish. He's decided to restore the other universes here. It's a shame because he'll have to wait another year to separate, but hey, what could he do? Although, he does feel like he's forgetting something. Like, another way to separate. He can't quite figure out what it is, though. Maybe he's just going crazy. If there actually is something there, he'll remember it eventually. Following the Tournament of Power, Frieza does Frieza things and ends up finding Broly, bringing him to Earth to fight Vegito, as Frieza goes for the Dragon Balls to grow taller. When Paragus and Broly step off the ship, they're a bit confused because Paragus was expecting to see Vegeta here, and he kinda does see Vegeta. He sees Vegito, who looks like Vegeta. Not entirely, but vaguely enough. Oh yeah, Frieza explains that too. That actually is Vegeta. He merged with another Saiyan. This confuses Paragus to no end because fusion? Merging? How? He's never heard of that. But whatever, that guy clearly is a Saiyan, and he definitely seems to be part Vegeta, so good enough for him. He sicks Broly on Vegito and the two start fighting. And Vegito is really impressed with Broly's strength. He's growing quickly during battle. At this point, he's still not close to Vegito's level, but Broly's adapting and growing stronger with rage. Vegito wants to do this non-lethally and doesn't want to kill Broly. And since Broly isn't a huge threat right now, he could have some fun. He still has to hold back severely, but he tries out something that he didn't get to try in the tournament. He thought he'd have the chance to test it out, but the fights ended there quicker than he expected. Broly fights Vegito, completely overwhelmed by his rage. While Vegito feels nothing, he completely empties his mind and heart. A strange aura appears around him and his strength increases significantly. Vegito goes into Ultra Instinct Domin. He's been able to willingly access this for a while, but hasn't accessed the complete version of it yet. And this is complete overkill, but first of all, Vegito wants to use this in a battle for once. Second of all, he wants to see how it works against someone like Broly who just adapts as he fights. And third, this ensures that he could win and stop this non-lethally. He has a little bit of fun with it, but Vegito eventually does stop the fight completely. And that leaves one more issue. Frieza. Also, I guess Paragus, but he's not really an issue. Frieza has his hand on the Dragon Balls, and they don't realize he's just wishing to grow taller. Either way, they can't let him get the Dragon Balls. Frieza powers up into his golden form, ready to fight him if necessary. So Vegito powers up into Super Saiyan God, which is still holding back heavily and still kind of overkill for this fight. Vegito could tell that Frieza's grown a lot stronger. He saw his performance in the tournament after all, but it's still not going to be enough to fight him. Even in one of his lower forms like this, it's not going to do anything. And Frieza almost does fight, but he holds himself back. At the end of the actual Broly movie, Gogeta did spare Frieza, of course. So what about this different Vegito? I think it's kind of 50-50. Part of him would want to see how strong Frieza could grow, and doesn't really view him as a threat here. But part of him also knows how dangerous Frieza is. So maybe he should just stop him here and now. But since Gogeta spared Frieza, I'm going to say Vegito does the same thing here too. Especially because this fight didn't really amount to much. And this version of Vegito is stronger than Gogeta in the movie. By a pretty big margin too. Frieza is no threat to him at all. Even if he grows stronger, they're not really too concerned about him. Frieza is able to escape and Vegito hesitates. In the process, he leaves Broly, Paragus, Chi-Lai, and Lemmo behind. Paragus is terrified, but Vegito says he's not going to do anything. The two of them could stay here. It would be nice to have Broly around, especially with his potential. Vegito is really curious how far he can grow from here. So the four of them do end up staying on Earth. Now we go into the manga's events. Meiros comes to Earth looking for some help. Majin Buu is dead, which means Moro's seal was broken. But since both Buus are dead here, that also means that there's no good Buu to help, which in turn means no Grand Supreme Kai to help. So he's really just coming here for the extra firepower. He heard of the strongest mortal living here. He also was the one to defeat Buu, so why not consult Vegito? Vegito does end up helping and ends up going to Namek. The fight with Moro begins and ends pretty quickly. Vegito finds his power really interesting, but he also realizes that a lot of Moro's strength isn't his own. Since Moro gets stronger by absorbing power from other people and things, that could be really dangerous, especially if he gets Vegito's power. Which he does try to steal mid-fight, although Vegito has so much in reserves that it's not really working. And he also has Ultra Instinct, which he uses to completely mitigate the effects of Moro's absorption, and to stop the fight pretty quickly. And it does make him wonder, should he spare Moro? I would think not. You might be wondering why he doesn't spare Moro, but he spared Frieza. First of all, Vegito does see Moro as a bigger threat here. He doesn't know the true extent of Moro's power, but from what he assumes, it can go pretty far, and he could become the strongest in the multiverse. Second of all, Frieza actually did help them with the tournament, and Vegito kinda did promise that he'd bring him back to life, so he considers sparing Frieza that get out of jail free card. Next time he sees Frieza, he dies. But he has no obligation like that for Moro here. And even if he does get strong and makes for an interesting fight, Vegito doesn't really find it interesting. The only reason Moro is going to get strong is because he steals power from other people, so for all of those reasons he just ends Moro right here. But once more something's nagging him. Like, after seeing Moro's power he's thinking, is there some sort of power that can counter his power? He feels like he remembers seeing something familiar. Maybe even something that could reverse his fusion. But before he gets to the conclusion he needs, Mayra survives and thanks Vegito for his help, interrupting his train of thought. Once more, Vegito completely forgets about Yardrat and the fact that he can go there to unfuse. I mean, I could let him go right now, but I want the story to continue a little bit longer. Besides, Vegito knows he can get the Super Dragon Balls soon enough. A bit of time has already passed after the tournament, and he just needs to wait until a complete year passes. And eventually that year does pass. Now is Vegito's chance. He could finally get the Super Dragon Balls and finally unfuse. It's going to take a bit of time, but he's prepared from before. He has a ship still, he has the radar, and he has a friend that he's going to bring along with him, Broly. He has spent some time training with Broly. Broly's been a really great training partner and he's grown a bunch. Although he hasn't gone Super Saiyan yet. Vegito really wonders what it's going to be like, and he's not really scared because Vegito thinks he could handle it, but he's really intrigued to see where Broly's power goes from here. With the Super Dragon Balls back, and Vegito getting ready for his new Grand Tour, this is where we'll leave off for now. What'd you guys think about this part, and what's going to happen next time? Leave your thoughts and ideas in the comments below. I'd love to see what you guys think. As usual, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help with the channel and shows me you want to see more videos like this. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.